I'm doing so many bathrooms and kitchens and I'm barely making any money. Land bigger projects. Everyone is so scared of commercial construction projects, and I don't know why. There's so much opportunity in commercial that it's ridiculous. If you're not doing commercial projects right now, you're missing out on probably hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars a year in contracts. And some benefits are you get larger contracts with people who actually know about construction. They're not gonna nitpick every single little detail. To be honest, managing bigger projects is way easier than managing these tiny little jobs. What do you mean? But bigger projects are more risky. They're more stressful. They require more financing. Yes and no. Actually, if you understand how to run and manage a commercial construction project, they're actually gonna be less risky. It's gonna make you more money, and you're gonna have a lot more time on your hands to grow your business. Listen, I've done high rises, I've done mid rises, I've done massive mall projects, and I've even done the smaller stuff, the residential projects, the additions, the kitchens, the bathrooms. I've done it all. And what I found overall is that the smaller projects actually bring way more headache and stress to your life. And when you're dealing with residential, you're actually dealing with homeowners that usually they're clueless about construction. They don't know anything about construction, which leads to indecisiveness. They change things, they're not sure. They don't know how much things should cost. They don't understand the construction process. They don't understand how contracts work. So you're constantly dealing with inexperienced people. Okay, listen, I don't hate residential construction. There is money to be made there. However, I do know that the more complex your projects are, and the more time that it requires of your time, the harder it is to scale your business, to get more jobs, and to hire more people, and to train more people, and to do all the activities that are gonna lead to revenue, to money, to sales, to estimating. You're just not gonna be able to be present in the sales part of your business to grow it if you're dealing with all these little tiny headaches. For example, let's say you go and do a custom remodel. You go and you get a lead from Angie or Home Advisor or Google Ads or whatever, and you go to their house, you start the remodel, you start doing the demo, and boom, the wall is full of mold. Now you gotta remediate the mold. And if you're doing things with permits, you're gonna have issues there because now you have to do mold testing and things, and it's gonna slow you down. Now you gotta start ripping out additional drywall, and surprise, there's more mold behind that drywall and more mold behind this drywall. And those are things that happen all the time when you're dealing with residential construction. Here's another one. You go to the job site, you start demoing to do your remodel, and then you find out that they have cast iron pipes. And guess what? In a lot of counties and a lot of states, they're removing the ability for you to have cast iron, and they're making you do PVC work. So now what do you have to do? You have to go get a plumber that's gonna go do all this extra work. And guess what happens? When these guys, when your subcontractors or when the guys that you hire or your workers come to do the work, they wanna come in and out quick. But when things get complicated, now they got another job lined up, so they got to stop your job to go over there. You lose a week, you got to come back, but then the next guy that you needed to be there to coordinate is now on another job because he's also doing small jobs, so he's always running around, so he's busy, so he can't give you dedicated attention like if you had a big project. Guess what? I've done high rises, and the easiest project that I've ever managed in my entire career was a 22-story building. But guess what? Because it was one job with one architect, with one set of plans, with one general superintendent, with one of my superintendents, with one of my foremen, it was one of everything. So I could dedicate my sole focus on this one job. And it was a multi, I don't know, like a $10 million contract or something like that. Believe it or not, that was the easiest job I've ever managed in my entire career. So if you really want to grow your business, there are two things that you need to consider in the jobs you take. Number one, how many of this project can I take at a given time? And number two, how can I get larger contract values so I don't have to have as many jobs and so I could focus on the one job? That was a long intro. Now in this video, I'm gonna show you why you need to add commercial construction to your business, why it's gonna bring you larger contract values, it's gonna bring you less stress in your life, and literally any residential contractor can add this onto your existing business. I'm not saying to change it or to remove residential, because obviously that's what's paying the bills, but you can add on commercial construction as an additional revenue stream into your business so you can start getting bigger contracts and making more money. And guess what? You might even find out that you like residential more and you want to ditch these little remodels and these little bathrooms and kitchens. This is for residential contractors, remodeling companies, home improvement companies, bathroom and kitchen companies, even commercial guys that are doing the really small stuff. This is specifically for you. But I did put a few hidden secrets in this video so that you can literally blow up your sales overnight. So keep watching. All right, so let's look at question number 1. How many projects like this can I do at the same time? So if you're dealing with complex projects or difficult projects or projects that are with a difficult client, it's gonna be very difficult for you to have more of these. Now, if you're doing like $10,000 bathroom renovations or like $20,000 or $30,000 kitchens, then you're gonna see that these are complicated jobs. They're not just in and out, because there's always surprises. There's always things, there's indecisiveness. The homeowners, they change the paint colors, they change the countertops, they change their mind, they can't decide. They don't wanna give you the final payment because the little paint is dripping on the wall, and you know, they feel like they're gonna hold back your 50% payment because of that. Stuff like that. And what happens is when you're dealing with homeowners that don't know much about construction, there's a lot of insecurity and indecisiveness about the things like the quality of work, about how the contract process needs to go. You might even run into the penny pinchers that question every single little cost. So that being said, in order to do jobs like this, you need a lot of contracts just to pay the bills. Which leads me to point number 2. Get bigger contracts. You can actually manage more work with bigger contracts because you don't need as many jobs. You can literally do the same amount of contract value and profit margins and all that stuff than if you did a bunch of small jobs, because you can focus on one job. You can put your attention into one job, less mistakes, less coordination. And guess what happens? If you can build yourself a team doing these medium to large contracts, I'm talking about $100,000 contracts. In commercial, a $100,000 contract is actually not even that big. It's usually like, it's even a small contract, or sometimes you would, maybe a mid-sized contract, I guess. But larger contracts are like $10 million, $5 million. If you go on any of the lead platforms, you can see that there's a handful of huge projects like 10 million and up going on in your area. The large majority are gonna be in the like $1 million to $10 million range. And then there's a ton of tenant build outs. Now, tenant build outs are great because they're not complicated. They're usually straightforward. They're quick turnarounds. Like you might need to do them in like 3 months or 4 months, but they're not that complicated. So I definitely recommend, if you're trying to get into commercial, that is a really good starting point. Stores, restaurants, small office buildings, medical offices, things like that. There's a million of them. If you go into like the Blue Book or Construct Connect or one of these platforms, you're gonna see that there's hundreds of projects out there for you. Now, what is my trade secret? What is my secret that I only reveal in my coaching program? In my coaching program, one of my things that I talk about is you have to build a system of repeat business. I call it building a portfolio of repeat clients, because what's gonna happen is you don't wanna just always go sell yourself. If you're doing these jobs from like Angie, or you're getting like referrals, every time you go to somebody's, their property or their house or their business that you're gonna give them a quote or an estimate, you gotta sell yourself every single time. But imagine if you could start working with a commercial client, a B2B client, business to business. Let's say if you're a subcontractor, you're gonna be dealing with a general contractor, right? This is a business person. We're talking about numbers, bottom line. He knows about construction. He knows the business. I don't need to sell myself. He's not gonna be indecisive. He actually knows what needs to get done, and let's just get straight to work, right? That's the mentality, that's the attitude that goes on in commercial construction. Once you sell yourself once, now you have access to the behind the scenes people, the superintendents, the project managers, the vice presidents, the people that actually make the decisions to hire you. Recently, I was working on a project for one of my clients. So I'm doing the estimate, and I call the estimator and I ask him a bunch of questions about the job. Like, hey, what's the deck height? You know, are we demoing this? The plans are really bad. Like this, that, oh, I don't know. Oh, figure it like this, figure it like that. I did the estimate. They got awarded the job, right? And then the project manager, who is the decision maker, she calls and says, hey, basically change everything. Re-estimate, the walls are like this, like this, like this. The deck height is actually higher than what we estimated. We're gonna put storefronts here. We're gonna change this. So like I basically ended up redoing the estimate, but my first estimate was what I call the preliminary estimate. So I submitted the preliminary estimate, which is how you get your foot in the door. You just gotta put in a price. And her and I started going back and forth talking, and I landed my contractor a $40,000 contract. And I think I've only been working with him for about a month and a half. Believe it or not, this stuff works, man. Like that client is guaranteed to become a repeat client because I demonstrated professionalism on his behalf. It's a completely white label service that we offered him, which is basically we're actually operating like if we were his estimator sitting in his office. So even our email has their logo and everything, right? So when I talk to her, we're actually his company. We're PR Construction. We're not I Am Builders. So why do I say that? Because I got access to the project manager who was the real decision maker. And guess what? If we knock it out of the park, we are going to get the next job and the next job and the next job and the next job. And that's what we want. We want to start building a stream of business that's going to be repetitive. Build yourself a system, a portfolio of companies that are going to give you repeat projects every single month. One of my clients named Matt Hensley from Arizona, he's a plumbing contractor, a commercial plumbing contractor. He joined our training program 9 months ago. He had $400,000 of contracted work, contracts lined up. And in a 9-month period, we were actually able to help take him to $10 million. Think about that, 9 months. And I know it sounds pretty ridiculous. Like if somebody told me that, I would not believe them either. But him and we actually made a YouTube video recently where he showed me, he walked me exactly step by step what he did to grow his business. And I want you to see how he did it. All right, go watch that video, and I look forward to helping you grow your construction business.